Hey everybody, Cobra here. What the? Hey everybody, let's get right into this. There's been a lot of changes to come with this patch. The second half we're doing now, they revealed to us that we're getting 12 new unique items. Now I've gone through the whole list of these items, and the two I think that stand out the most to me are the Dolmen Stone for the Druid. Once you cast a boulder, if you have Hurricane already cast, that boulder will rotate around you inside the Hurricane. Spinning Balls of Death. Very interesting. And the other one is Tibbet's Will. Now, this is normally a skill that's used for PvP, and now with it being on an item, I like to see the other stats on this item. This may be a go-to PvP item. You deal 40% increased damage while unstoppable for 4 seconds. When you become unstoppable, gain 50 of your primary resource. Okay. That's usually a staple skill now for PvP. So if it has good stats that break the mold, that might be an item. Moving on though, we got legendary aspects. Every character got an aspect. Nothing really stands out here to be larger than other aspects that's already out. I don't see nothing that really pops out to me. We got some werebear skills, stuff like that, but I've never been the bear fan. Maybe this might make the bear a little bit better, but it feels like the bear is just a slow grind while everybody else is doing a faster pace walk. Paragon glyphs, again, nothing really pops out with me except the Necromancer. Everything that I read with the Necromancer for 5 intelligence, your corpse skills get 3.3 to 13.9% increased damage. Consuming a corpse fortifies you 4% of your maximum life and grants 4% damage reduction for 4 seconds. Necromancer's always taking the corpse. It seems like it synergizes into what it already has going on. The Desiccate Ground, not so much. I never really used the Desecration skill. But everything else seems to be just a little extra. Just nothing really stands out for me. The Whirlwind Barb doesn't really use Twister. Maybe it might come back on, but having the Dust Devil, I just don't see why. It doesn't have a problem dealing with groups as it is. So, but we'll see if it is incorporated into a new build. But I want to see something better than what we have. Still, it's a great start. Just a couple user experience upgrades. Items can be marked as favorite, and then they cannot be sold or salvaged. I can't tell you how many times between switching from two-handed weapons to an offhand and one-handed weapon, I've sold my items trying to get into the next dungeon as fast as possible. So if I can mark them as favorite, or that one thing that I throw in my stash, I can mark as favorite to set it apart. I'm all about that. We needed that from the beginning. Your stash can now be searched or filtered. Give me a bigger stash to be able to utilize the skill that you just gave me. I can look through 3 tabs and find everything without a filter. I think I'm like most people too that really get in and play this game. They are semi-organized in their stash in their own way because everybody organizes differently. So, it's a start. Give us a little bit more. Extracted aspects with the same legendary power will now be grouped together when sorted in an inventory and stash. I needed that space. I pull out a lot of aspects. That was the only way to get more space in my inventory, was try to pull all these and hold them in the sub-inventory of my character. So this is going to help out a lot. I need more room. This is an item collection game. I want to collect my items. For me, this is an item collection game. I like building builds, and I like collecting shiny things. Everything else just seems to be get 2 extra character slots. We talked about the 3 icons on the Helltide chest that will show if it's jewelry, armor, or weapons. The mini-map has been zoomed out to see a wider area. That's all right. Give me the mini-map when I make it full and I pull it up and see through it and still navigate with it up. How about that? That's a quality of life thing that we all come accustomed to that I think should come out with the game. Some item upgrades they did. Enchant costs are now cheaper. I don't believe they're where they need to be, but they have come down over halfway. For larger enchants, for more enchants. The initial enchant looks to be about the same, give or take 10,000. That isn't making or breaking anybody. But we're under half going forward from there. And I like that, but it still needs to go down a little more. Because I'm doing 10 rolls for my last item. If I can't find it, it's the last piece that just needs that 4. I'm going to roll until I hit it big. Sometimes I will look for another item, but sometimes that item doesn't come. And you got to go for it. As we go here, we talked about gems not dropping. We're just going to go through and skip over what we already covered in the first video. Overall rate of elixirs. Of course, the experience change. There is an eye power range for items dropped. They have already posted that here. We went over that last week, but from level 100, you'll get 830 to 925. So the harder content you do, the higher eye power of the item that you will find, which will give it a chance to have a higher range. So this should have been done a long time ago. This has been done through many games throughout the years, like Destiny 2 with the power, and it's called the power creep. And I'm glad they're changing a lot of these things, but we'll talk about that a little more at the end. You're going to get more Forgotten Souls also. They've upped the Forgotten Soul. You can salvage. It has been 5% chance to grant a Forgotten Soul for a sacred item, 10% chance for an ancestral item. Two-handed weapons can grant up to 2 Forgotten Souls from salvage. All other equipment can grant 1. That's good. Let me get some roses too. Forgotten Souls I never was really out of. But those roses at the end, I started being out of them. I have to go find them. Let me get another way other than just Helltide. Or put them on my map or give me some spawn points or something for them. Of course, we went over the world tiers. We went over the dungeons. Teleporting nightmare dungeons will teleport you inside instead of outside. That skips a whole load screen. Again, duh. More world bosses. Went over mounts. Faster. Jump off attack. Jump on faster. Get knocked off. Get on back faster. Possibly use your horse attack. I don't see it doing much damage, and not all builds will correspond with the build. Per se, the dagger wielding rogue does not have bow damage or arrow damage, so it's kind of a lackluster skill. It's all for show and flash. While you're sitting there waiting for the world boss to pop off, you kick 1 or 2 off. Let's go over some of the miscellaneous. Necromancer minions and druid companions are much less likely to attack invulnerable enemies. Now, we talked about this a little bit last week. Necromancer minions also got a buff. So I see a lot of work going on with the minions here, because a minion build should be suitable for a Necromancer to work. I think this is a great pickup on the Necromancer. I think the Necromancer is getting a lot of buffs this season. And I really think the Druid is getting a little love this season. And I think those are definitely the 2 characters I'm going to start out with. Effects of Overpower. They're trying to buff Overpower to make it a usable skill. So balance updates. They've totally changed almost every unique item. Unique items will no longer follow the rules of what kind of affix can be on it. It can have any affix on it. Per se, cooldown can be on a piece of armor if it comes on that armor. I don't know what they all look like yet, but I'm giving you an example. So cooldown can come on something that cooldown usually isn't on. They break the limit. Every piece will have one of these law-breaking skills on them now. and they will have much higher values than they previous had. Something else too is they're adding affixes that doesn't exist. Per se, tornado can have longer duration. I'm not saying that's a skill, I'm just saying it doesn't exist on a different item, and these unique items will have these now, making them a little more unique, possibly best in slot for a power creep. But we're going to see how all that plays off. I'm very excited about these unique items. And we're supposed to have these uber unique items. We're at least supposed to know somebody that can link it in the chat and show us, hey, I just found this. That's what I want to see. I want to congratulate one of my friends for finding the hardest, most elusive item in the game. Resistances. Prior to the Season of Blood, resistance is stacked. I'm going to use a different word than what they say right here because everybody's throwing around this word and I don't think they know what they mean. Resistances had diminishing returns. I think we all get that. So if I had a 20% resistance, and the more I put on, the more diminishing returns it would have. So if I would stack on another 20 on that 20, it wouldn't be 40. It would be more like 37.50 because diminishing returns. I would stack another 20 on that, and it would probably be like 52. It would keep getting more and more until what I was putting on 20% would become 5%, 4%, 3%. And now there will be a Diablo 2 change. Great change. I thought we learned this 20 years ago. 70% flat cap. Of course, I'm sure you'll be able to raise that through different means and different skills. But 20 plus 20 will be 40. 20 plus 20 plus 20 will be 60. That's how it should have been. Hopefully these resistances would matter through the whole game and not just these new bosses, because it will be an extra thing that we will need to stack on top of everything. So I think they did the right thing with the resistances, because the diminishing returns are good in something like Magic Find per se for my Diablo 2 fans, but not for resistances, because in every skill I will have to max out resistance, which only can be 75%, and each of the difficulty levels should drain those resistances so much, so it will make me stack that skill to stay strong. I should not just stack armor. I mean, if that's all I'm going to do is stack armor, take resistances out of the game. Again, armor. All of the armors have been upgraded. You're going to get a lot more armor, and if you look at these, critical strike damage and vulnerability, if you read this on par, it shows like it did a buff to it, but they changed the way that it works. So, critical strike and vulnerable now will have diminishing returns. So no longer will they just stack. 20 and 20 will be 35. Not those exact numbers now, just an example. But critical strike and vulnerable, diminishing returns now. They're trying to make overpower something that somebody uses, which right now I've only seen druids really use it, and not to any effect. So, since crit and vulnerable are king, they're letting other stats like damage to close enemies, damage to distant enemies. You're still going to want to stack crit and vulnerable to an extent, but not to an extent where it's not worth the spot, because the diminishing returns will overtake it. I'm curious to see how this works out, but we're supposed to be more powerful. Now, class and balance updates. Some of the biggest things that I've seen that hit. One is the Barbarian. Berserk is going to have a chance to stack to double its damage. Once you're berserked, if you hit berserk again, you'll get like an uber berserk. And that's something I feel like the Barbarian really needs. I think certain Barbarian builds are very good, but the other ones lag behind. So hopefully this gives us a little more damage. I know my buddy had probably the best Barbarian build I've ever seen last season. He could do Uber Lilith. He could keep up with everything. I do think the Barbarian is good, but I think it's very limited in the builds because the builds have changed every time you have made an update. First the Hammer, then the Whirlwind, then we got the Double Swing, then the Whirlwind's good again. I mean, we have to come to some ground where we level out a little bit with that. Battle Pass updates, not interested in Battle Pass updates. I don't think a lot of other people are, but there's one thing I want to touch on real quick, is that you will get 700 platinum from your tiers on your premium Battle Pass. Now the 666 sounds cool, but it would trap you into always buying it. You should be able to play it twice and get one for free at least. So this gives us that ability. A lot of the class fixes, again, there's a lot of things that I didn't even know was a problem. And these are just fixes through it all. And I think all these fixes should have been done when the game come out. At this point with this patch, what it looks like to me is this is the status of the game should have been when it came out. So we're back at day one. And once again, I've been predicting that it's going to be Season 3 before we see a giant change. And I see a giant change right now, but I don't think it's the one that we need all the way because we need more content at the end. And this is just going to provide a pillow for now. But we're going to need some more. It's going to be okay for this season, but Season 3, you better come hard with some extra content. I need more story. I need to fight Diablo. I need to fight Baal. If I don't fight Diablo, then we're just going to start calling this Lilith 1. I don't see anything that really stands out. Once again, a lot of this stuff I didn't even notice. But there's a lot of different levels of the game and people that play at a different level. Not everybody's going to have the same problem. Overall, I see some great changes here. Again, I'm going to restate, this is how the game should have been when it came out. But I hope we're on our path because at the moment we're at make or break. I do see a light at the end of the tunnel with all these changes coming out. But again, they made all these changes so fast. What did they do? Did they do all hands on deck? Every other change has not been this fast. And they have everything that they need to get done to move forward with some more meaningful content. I hope we get all these fixes fixed. I mean, what other word is it? Fix the game. Let's get more content. It's supposed to be a live service, not, hey, let's put it out and fix it later. Hey, I bought a car to go back and forth to work, but I got to work on it every day before I can even take it to work. That's not what I bought. So, this is a great move. Hopefully this makes it for everybody. Hopefully it makes it a good foundation for more. Because I really love this game. And I think we're finally on the right path. Again, I say Season 3 when things really change. But I am super interested in a Druid and a Necromancer this season. And I'm willing to see where it takes us. So, a couple more days. We're going to be out. And I hope to see you in Sanctuary. Stay safe out there. Hey! Thanks for sticking around. It means a lot. Here's another video. Don't forget to hit that like, ring that bell, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and be safe out there.
Hey, I got something to say. I'm just so sick of hearing everyone complain. I know it's tough and I know there's pain, but hitting bottom is the only way to change.